All right, well, good morning and welcome to the Speed Traveler Roadshow. I'm Chris Evertson along with Charlie Frank, and you're listening to us live on KHTS Radio, AM 1220, FM 98.1. Of course, we're available wherever you download your favorite podcast episodes. And check us up on social media at Instagram. It's at The Speed Traveler, and also on YouTube. Check out all our videos. And Charlie, it's so great to be in the studio, our second show of the year, and we've got some cool topics, kind of getting the year started.
And just backing up just a little bit, if you're new to the Speed Traveler and you don't really know what we're doing here, we talk about everything cars. Chris and I have bought and sold with my brother Ralph and with our buddy Raymond. I think those guys all included the crew. We've bought and sold probably 200 cars, and we've made some mistakes along the way. But we're here to be your guides. If you're getting into the classic car market or the exotic car market, we like to help our friends out and share some of our insight. Also, Chris, we talk a lot about road trips.
We do?
And yeah, we do. Talk a lot about road trips and places you can go and have fun with your car. Some great automotive events you can visit on your own. And we talk cars themselves, and what's going up in value, what's going down in value. And of course, a little Formula One racing and Dakar Rally racing.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into the Dakar Rally because it's been pretty exciting to watch some of the highlights on YouTube and what have you. And you mentioned that we talk about roads, our favorite roads and road trips and things like that. And our marquee brand of the day happens to be Alfa Romeo. And we've had some great road trips in that car that we're going to get to talk about in a number of their cars.
Yeah, that's true. We had a great trip in Vegas. For those of you who want to check it out. Actually, you know what? We only have highlights right now. We don't have the full video, do we, on the Alfa Romeo trip to Vegas?
I think we got drunk and stopped editing.
We're kidding, of course. So
yeah, we stopped editing.
But yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about our featured mark in the next segment, Alfa Romeo, and we're going to talk about some fun things you can do with your car. And as I mentioned before, we're going to talk about the Dakar Rally. But first, Chris, we're going to talk about some fun trips that we're going to take the Speed Traveler in 2024, and also places where listeners could go and have a great time.
Yeah, fun trips and also fun news. We've got a lot going on. I mean, I'm excited to get on the road here very, very shortly. I mean, the F1 season starts at the end of February. So we're going to get on the road for that. We're going to do our own road trips around mostly the Western states that we have scheduled. We're working on a couple projects that are on the East Coast, the Florida, Panhandle, and what have you. But it's going to be an exciting year.
Yeah. No, I love the Florida from top to bottom in 24 hours.
Yeah.
That's going to be a good challenge.
We should actually run that.
Yeah.
We should do that the same time they do the endurance race at Daytona.
Oh, that's a great idea. So the 24 Hours of Daytona is a famous sports car race. Has been going for 70 years. And it's coming up in January. So, that's not a bad idea. I think we see if we can go from the Panhandle to Key West in 24 hours.
That would be, why am I blanking? Who started the Cannonball Run?
Brock Yates.
Brock Yates.
Yeah.
Brock Yates. It's an episode that Brock Yates would be very proud of, I think.
Oh, yeah, he would. But some of the other events, specifically in April 19th through 21st, is the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach.
That's one of our all-time favorites.
Yeah, and if you've never been, it's an incredible race to go to. It's funny because people ask us all the time, well, what's the best day? And, I just want to go Sunday for the IndyCar race. The truth of the matter is Friday or Saturday are the days to go.
I agree with you. Everyone wants to be, now, this is not taking anything away from the IndyCar race itself.
Agreed.
But at the end of Sunday, it's kind of the weekend's over and the energy switches.
Yeah.
And this is true for any event,
Yeah,
right?
It's true. And it's long. If you're somewhat new to racing, I wouldn't suggest going and sitting in the stands for 2.5 hours watching cars just keep going by. Like, unless you're a real hardcore fan, I have a hard time sitting in the stands for 2 hours.
No, we move. Well, every time we go to the races, we're always moving around, whether we're in the VIP paddock or pit row paddock or the GA tickets up at the hairpin, or wherever we are, or having a bubbly water at the Hyatt.
Yeah, right.
And watching it on the jumbo screen. We've watched that race on site from virtually every spot available.
Yeah.
And, back to your point, though, I think Friday and Saturday is so much fun because, I really like Saturday because there is actual racing, not just qualifying and practice on track. So you see some great racing out on track, but then there's also the nightlife that goes with all of that.
Right. And Sunday, if you go to the IndyCar race on Sunday, like you said, taking nothing away from IndyCar, but the energy's kind of over after the race.
Right.
And so if you go Saturday, you get to see Robbie Gordon Stadium Super Trucks, which is unbelievable. They only do about 10 laps, so it's great for short attention spans. And it's incredibly dynamic. They make these metal jumps. The cars jump 150 to 200 feet long and about 40 feet high. It's insane.
Yeah, the Stadium Super Truck race is super fun to watch on any of the tracks that they visit, especially when you get to watch it live. It's so much different seeing that live and in person than it is. You see it on TV and you go, holy mackerel, these guys are nuts. You see it in person and the expletives
you're like running for cover.
You're running for cover. And then there's always the fun drift show, the drift racing, and then the other category racing. There's going to be sports car, there's going to be classic sport car racing, IMSA racing this year. I think there's going to be a classic F1 race, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Plus, they have the Porsche Cup and everything else. So it's just a great weekend. And like we were saying, Saturday, the energy is still electric
and building
and you go out in downtown Long Beach and it's just the energies. There's street shows. Red Bull's doing a street show. Everyone's doing some kind of stunt show. The restaurants are on fire. The bars are on fire. The energy is just electric. And a lot of the drivers, you'll see a lot of the guys from the stadium truck races that are out there having a good time.
Yeah.
You'll see the captain, Roger Penske, going out with his team at various restaurants. One of our favorite places. We love going to Lopra.
Right.
It's one of our favorite restaurants in the world.
It's in Long Beach on the corner of First and Pine. I think the address is 101 North Pine Street. And we've been going there for as long as they've been open. I think it's been 28, 29 years now.
At least.
And fantastic. Like, we're going to be doing a live podcast from that location and recording this actual radio show from that location. So if you happen to get to Long Beach Grand Prix this year and take our advice and go on Friday or Saturday, you can come to Le Opera Restaurant.
Yeah, travelers, mark your calendar. Come down to Long Beach Grand Prix Friday, Saturday. We're going to be doing live shows at Lopra.
Yep.
Come down and visit us. Heckle us. We love a good heckle. Have a cocktail with us. We'd love to see you at the races. Not only just to see you interact with our show, but come to the races. I mean, it's just, I think it's so much fun.
And just to wrap up Long Beach Grand Prix, if you're going to go do it this year, by the way, they're not paying us. We just happen to love that event. But if you go this year, don't buy a grandstand ticket per se. You don't really need it on Friday or Saturday. Just buy a general admission ticket. You've got the expo, you've got the stadium super trucks. You can walk all around the circuit, get your workout in. And that's really the way to see it.
It really is. And should I throw a pro tip out there?
Sure.
So, pro tip, Long Beach Telegram, Press Telegram, whatever the newspaper is, do free general admission tickets in their newspaper for Friday. So you can get in for free.
Also, I think the local Acura dealers
and
do.
And the local Acura dealers.
I think you have to test drive.
You have to do a test drive and you have to give up a little bit of data.
Right.
But you can pick up, and Acura loves that because, first of all, we love the fact that Acura is supporting the event. And second of all, they do make a very exciting car. Who doesn't like an NSX?
Yeah, right? No, they do. That's a great point. You know what? And that's one of the reasons why we love the Long Beach Grand Prix is that you can't go to the Las Vegas Formula One race on Thursday night, the first night, which is the practice night. You can't go for less than a couple $100. But the Long Beach Grand Prix, if you're short on cash, you can go for almost nothing.
Yeah. And accessibility is fantastic.
It is.
A GA ticket will get you pretty much everywhere on that track. So, but wow, that was just a great advertisement for the Long Beach, the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach.
Exactly.
Maybe we should get paid for this.
Yeah, exactly. Our friend, the Kalkoven family, Kim Kalkoven, is the part owner. Gerald Forsythe owns the other half of that race. We've been to every single one of them since 1975. We were little tiny kids.
I think Jim McKellion's been managing the event since its inception, when Chris Pook originally started it in 1975.
And Dwight Tanaka, I think,
Tanaka,
is the ops guy. He's the one who builds all the the grandstands. And we'll see if we can get Jim McKellian on. It'd be fun to have him on.
An avid race car driver, an avid racing enthusiast,
Yep.
and obviously knows what he's talking about. He's been
sure
running
does.
the Long Beach Grand Prix for a long time. He'd be a fun guest. He's a character.
Yeah, he really is. So there you have it. I mean, one other quick pro tip is I was just recently talking about going to the Super Bowl. Some friends of mine from my beach volleyball community are going, and no one's going to the game. They're just going to be in the town when the town's going off. And we sort of did that for the Formula One race this last November.
That's right. And, why not?
Yeah, it's really fun. The town's electric. So you can always go to these events like Formula One. I mean, it's very expensive, but you can always go to the event and just hang out in Las Vegas.
But they are adventures. I mean, take into events like the 24 Hours Le Mans.
Right.
I mean, most people are there not necessarily for the racing. They're there for the energy and
Right.
the atmosphere.
And it's a
and the
party.
racing's just a great aside.
Right. Yeah. So there you have it. I'm losing my voice. That's not good in
Already?
segment one.
Wow.
But we are going to take a quick break. You are here on KHTS Radio, or you're listening on your podcast somewhere. This is the Speed Traveler Roadshow. We'll be right back.
All right. Well, welcome back to the Speed Traveler Roadshow. I'm Chris Evertson. Along with me is Charlie Frank, and you're listening to us live on KHTS AM 1220 FM 98.1. Of course, we're available at wherever you download your favorite podcast episodes. Check us out on social media. You can find us on YouTube and Instagram and everywhere else at The Speed Traveler. And Charlie, this segment of the program is brought to us by Blenders Eyewear. Blender's been a great partner to us for a number of years. And if you use code TST20 at checkout for any pair of Blenders Eyewear, you get 20% off.
What's that code one more time?
TST20. And by the way, they now do prescription lenses as well.
Interesting.
And it includes 20% off prescription
I'm probably
lenses.
going to need it.
I know. I can't read the fine print. Is there a font bigger than Grandpa?
Yeah. Size 64.
Yeah.
Put it on like a giant roll of paper.
We need a giant.
Jerry, can you slowly roll the paper across?
We got to use the backside of one of those. Have you ever been carpet shopping and they got those big spools of carpet?
Yeah.
Just need one of those big spools.
Just keep running. And we're talking to Jerry Cook, who's our production manager in this show. So Jerry's going to help us for that next show when we need that. Or we could just get Blenders Eyewear.
Oh, that makes entirely too much sense. Get some Blenders Eyewear and we could actually read the fine print.
Right.
I love it. I love it.
So we're going to talk a little bit more about while we were at commercial break. We probably should have recorded that. We came up with the concept, and that is we're going to try and do all of Florida in 36 hours. Originally, we were thinking 24 hours, but that might be a little ambitious. I mean, Florida tipped from Panama City area in the Panhandle to Key West is actually a little further than I thought.
It's a trek. It's a hump, that's for certain. And the thing is we always find a secret shortcut that adds at least 2 hours to the journey.
Well, that's the other thing is if you're going to do Florida point to point, you can't just go point to point. Like point to point as far as the crow flies is probably 600 or 700 miles.
Right.
But you're going to have to go down the Gulf Coast to Tampa. Then you're going to have to cut across to St. Augustine, a great town we talked about last week.
You got to stop in St. Augustine.
Then you're going to go to the Daytona 24 hours, maybe get in there around midnight, and then start, 4 or 5 a.m. at Cape Canaveral.
Right.
And reenact the walk to the space shuttle.
That's right. Slow motion walk.
At 4:30 a.m. But yeah, I think it's, there's a perfect example of going out there and having fun in your vehicle. And, a lot of people they're so focused on point A, especially, I hate to rip on the newer generation, but man, the newer generation is, focused on point to point and not the journey in between.
Right. And it's the journey in between. It's the Huell-Hauser moments that really make it exciting. That's the whole point of why it's going to take 36 hours. We did LA to San Francisco a year or so ago on Coast Highway, and we were supposed to do it in a certain allotted amount of time, right. And we basically had to double that because we stopped everywhere.
We did, and we started at around 7:30 a.m. and we got to Lombard Street at midnight. Which, by the way, another Speed Traveler pro tip: there was no one there. I've never been to Lombard Street when there was no one there. There was no one there.
There was no one there. There was no one walking. There was no one riding.
There was no
one
line
driving.
of tourists.
There wasn't a police
was
car
no
letting
police.
one car in at a time.
It was unbelievable. So there's a great pro tip. Get to is it Lombard or Lombardy? I'm gonna look.
I think it's Lombard.
I think it's Lombard.
Yeah, Lombard.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's a perfect example. That took. Let's do the math there quickly. That took 17 hours. We thought it was going to take
3-hour tour.
We thought it was going to take 6 or 7 hours. It took 17 hours. But it's just
as every good road trip
exactly.
should.
And if you have a road trip that you've taken that you love, feel free to hit us up on social media at The Speed Traveler on YouTube or on Instagram and let us know.
Yeah, I don't want to fixate on the Florida trip, but
Right.
Back to the Florida trip. I'm really excited about that. I mean, I think doing that on the weekend of the
Right.
24-hour race at Daytona.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna have to kind of cram a lot of logistics in a short period of time because that's
17 days away.
yeah. So we can do it. We need 24 days. Is there any way we can get an extra couple days in there? No. It's going to be exciting. That's going to be a fun trip. And, I'm curious if there's anyone out there that would want to join us on any of these segments or has great places that we should actually stop and visit.
Let us know.
On that journey.
Or
because
if someone's
we'd love to check
got
it
a
out.
place, we know it's called Ancient. Is it Ancient Mathematics? So our buddy has like 100 Mercedes in the most incredible storage unit ever.
Yeah.
And I would love to go see him. and
Right.
go
I mean,
see-
one of our cars is in his
one of our
now
cars,
is in his
yeah,
collection.
the Benny S.
The Benny S. Yeah.
So reach out to us if you have any, or if you want to come with us for part of it, or if you're in Tampa or Daytona or St. Augustine or Miami and you want the Speed Travelers to roll by your shop, let us know.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way to do that, DM us on Instagram at The Speed Traveler. Chris or I or Charlie will definitely respond. Chris or Charlie.
We got
Who
on
are
that
they?
topic and and we burned a lot of time. But before we move on, Chris, we're going to talk a little bit more about Alfa Romeos and your experience running the Alfa Romeo event in Car Week, which a lot of people refer to Car Week, and it took me even being in the car world to really understand it meant Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance and the Motorsports reunion, Rolex Motorsports reunion.
Yes.
And that's in August every year up in the Monterey Bay area. But we took a fun trip about 30 years ago. At the very last minute, we thought about driving to Motorsport, or excuse me, to Car Week.
As all good plans are hatched in a moment's notice at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah. I think we started about 10, as I recall. But the craziest thing is we got in the car. We were headed to Car Week, and we had no reservations, no bags, nowhere to stay, and we just got in the car to head north from Los Angeles. It's not a horrible drive. It's about 4.5, 5 hours if you're going fast-ish. But
it was a horrible drive a couple days ago.
Yeah,
there was a huge pileup on
yeah.
fog.
There
I mean,
was.
Watch for fog
But-
if you're not familiar in driving with fog. Don't just pull over. Get off the dang freeway.
Yeah, but what was crazy is that it was August. We were halfway between Los Angeles and Monterey Bay, and it was 1 a.m. and it was freaking cold.
Freezing, and we were exhausted. Somehow it had been.
Yeah.
What happened? Because were we at a volleyball tournament?
I think
Where
so.
were
That's
we?
why
We were
we were
doing
delayed.
something.
Yeah, we were very
all
delayed.
day. So it was an all day affair. Then we jumped in the car and started driving. We got, like you said, about halfway up there. It was freezing cold.
In August, it was freezing.
It was freezing cold. I mean, I found an old pair of socks.
Yeah, there was a strategy. The strategy was if you put the top down in the car and you're cold, you're not going to fall asleep.
Right.
And then Chris
By the way, that does not work.
Chris was very resourceful. He dug out the bag in the trunk and got us a pair of mittens, which were socks. So we had mittens to use. Somehow it still didn't work. We both fell asleep at the wheels, kind of like the scene from the movie Vacation, where everyone's passed out asleep. We went into the dirt and the car bounced around and woke us up and it scared us straight. So
Yeah, it sure did.
we were able to finish the journey. We got to Monterey Bay about 3 in the
Well,
morning.
wait, we pulled over because we realized we were so knackered.
Oh,
we
yeah.
pulled over. We found a hotel.
Yeah.
I don't know if we should give them a plug, but it doesn't really matter. But the only room they had available was the honeymoon suite. So, And when I say honeymoon suite, I mean it was a full-on honeymoon suite.
Yeah, it was.
a round bed, a
Mirror above the ceiling,
the bed's
hearts
rotated,
everywhere.
hearts everywhere.
Yeah, it was very romantic.
It was very romantic, yeah.
And we tried hard to find a room, and everyone was sold out.
Yeah.
We drove all over the town. I think we made it to Paso Robles,
Yeah.
right? And then, but yeah, so I guess what we're saying here, the pro tip is give yourself a little more time to prepare for Car Week. There's no cheap rooms in Car Week. A lot of people go to Salinas, which is the little town east, or maybe you go all the way to San Jose and you drive the 75 minutes back, or Gilroy. The garlic
Gilroy.
capital of
That's
the world.
actually the better direction to really go. Is people all go towards the west, towards the beach. Which I mean that makes sense. It's logical.
Right.
But honestly, it's a quicker drive because there isn't as much traffic. If you go just a little bit east towards Gilroy, like you said, the garlic capital of the world. Also, there's a really cool rodeo and concert that goes on about the same time in Gilroy as Pebble Beach.
Yeah, and the other thing is you can, if you love to drive and you're cool with it. I've done it many times before. I've driven from Los Angeles, got up to Monterey. Pebble Beach is its own kind of thing. It's very expensive. I think it's minimum about $400 to get in, and you get a little wine and cheese. But I actually like the Rolex Motorsports reunion at Laguna Seca, WeatherTech Laguna Seca Raceway. So I've driven to Laguna Seca, watched the racing all day, and then just got back in the car at 6 o'clock and drove home.
You and I are very comfortable in doing that. We'll take off early in the morning, drive someplace, we'll spend the whole day on our feet, get our 10,000 steps in or 5 miles of walking, whatever it is.
Right.
Jump back in the car and freight train it back, back to the homes.
And you were there a few years ago doing Alfa Romeo activation, right? And was it the Quail Lodge, or it was not the Quail?
No, but I will say this: this is another pro tip.
And this is during Car Week.
Car Week during Pebble Beach. And this is a nice little pro tip if you don't want to spend that $400 to get into something like that. Right. A lot of manufacturers are doing events, and if you're on that manufacturer's list, you will get it. You might get an invite, which is free, and then you get to drive some really cool cars. Right. And to what you're just saying, we were running the Alfa Romeo program up there, and it was awesome. I mean, not only we get to, Alfa Romeo was flipping the bill for everyone, so there was meals involved, there was after hours activities. We got to drive really cool quadrifoglio Giulias on Laguna Seca Raceway.
Oh, wow.
Which
Laurelus Grade.
Which was really cool. But the best part, I was going to say, was leaving Laguna Seca and ripping it up on Laurelus Grade, which is just such a fun road. And it was just such a great place to put this Alfa Romeo Giulia to its test, in its natural terrain, winding mountain roads. Yeah. And it was absolutely
And you do have to be
awesome.
a little careful for cyclists, right?
You have to be careful for cyclists, for hikers, for other motorcyclists, for other knuckleheads driving like maniacs. Right. The random U-turn because people want to go back and do that sector again.
U-turn on the blind corner.
On a blind corner, smart thing. But at the end of that, we ended up at Folkstale Winery. And wow, I mean, it was just an awesome spread, great wine. The folks there at Folkstale, they were awesome, super friendly, and wow, delicious wine. Delicious wine.
Yeah, that's a good point. You could drive in, you could go to the Rolex Motorsports Reunion very affordably. You could drive the Laurelus Grade from WeatherTech Laguna Seca Raceway into
Carmel Valley.
Carmel Valley, exactly. And, if you want to spend a little extra money, you can go to Pebble Beach and see all the fancy cars and finish the day there. So.
And, we haven't mentioned this, but Laurelus Grade was actually made rather famous in a movie. Right. And a bit of a pursuit, if you will. Right. But it was made famous in... why am I blanking on the name? Michael Douglas and Sharon Stone.
Oh, yeah. Part of it. Yeah. A Basic Instinct.
Basic Instinct. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Exactly.
So...
Yeah, that's right. And they used the bridge that's further down on Highway 1.
Yes.
They made it seem like it was in the Stinson Beach area, but they actually used some location south in Monterey.
Right.
So there you have it. All right. Well, there's your pro tip on driving through Florida in 36 hours and going to Car Week in August. We're going to be live at Car Week this year, or at least at WeatherTech Laguna Seca Raceway.
Yes.
So we'll do some live broadcasts from there. If you want to come with us, hit us up and let us know. We'd love to meet you there and hang out a little bit. But we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk about the Alfa Romeo. Thanks for listening. We'll be right back.
All right, well, welcome back to the Speed Traveler Roadshow. I'm Chris Evertson, and along with me is Charlie Frank. And if you're listening to us live, it's on KHTS AM 1220, FM 98.1. Of course, we're available wherever you download your favorite podcast programs. And also check us out on the social medias at The Speed Traveler. Find our videos on YouTube and current photos and stories on Instagram and all the other social media sites. And Charlie, I think we're going to kind of continue on a little bit more with Alfa Romeo talk.
Yeah, and the theme, in the last segment, we were talking about going to Car Week in August in the Monterey Bay area, Pebble Beach. And you had a great experience, and you ran a activation for Alfa Romeo, and it was the Giulia, the main car?
Yeah, it was the Giulia Quadrifoglio, which is
How do you say that?
Quadri is 4,
okay,
and folio is leaf.
Quadrifoglio.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Flower,
now I know how to
actually.
say it.
Yeah, and it's basically in reference to the
Four-leaf?
four-leaf clover on the side of the car. And that denotes that, and it's important, there is a big distinction. If you see that four-leaf clover on the side of the car, that means it is a quadrifoglio.
Okay.
And with the current Giulia, that means it does have a 6-cylinder turbocharged Ferrari motor in there.
Yeah, 505 horsepower.
Yeah.
And that's a really fast car. I mean, you spent a few days driving it.
It is a very fast car. It's very quick, very nimble, and it's there are a lot of brands out there that make a great car, but they don't feel lively. Yeah. The Alfa Romeo Quadrifoglio Giulia, even the Giulia, even without the higher horsepower engine in there, it's got an energy. It's got a life in there. It's just fun to drive. It's exciting. You want to go faster.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you really feel it.
Yeah, and that's something great about the Alfa Romeo brand, isn't it? Like their cars are really fun to drive.
That's where they started. I mean, honestly, Enzo Ferrari basically started at Alfa Romeo.
Yeah.
And, it was that passion for racing that kind of that was instilled in Enzo at Alfa Romeo. And Alfa Romeo has not changed their mindset. I mean, we haven't seen a lot of wagons or trucks or anything like that. It's all sports cars.
Yeah, I rented a car in Genoa, Italy, just so I could drive the Autostrada. For those of you who haven't driven the Autostrada, it's Italy's answer to the Autobahn.
Yep.
I didn't know when I was on it that it was basically unlimited speed.
Yeah, just get out of the left lane.
Yeah, don't do like you do in the States and drive 60 miles an hour in the fast lane. So I learned that pretty quickly, but I rented I don't recall what it was. It was an Alfa Romeo 230 or something like that.
Giulietta.
It was it was just a little car. It was a rental car.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything special, but it was still really fun. It was in a manual and it was a blast to drive. So I love that about Alfa. They make really fun driving cars.
Well, and that's funny. We should bring this up. The reason Italian cars are kind of like this is because the roads in Italy have not grown. They're not any wider. Anywhere you want to be in Italy, it's a very narrow road. You're probably better served even being in a Vespa.
Yeah.
It's not like here in the States where we have these big, wide. Look, a lane is 11 feet wide. In Italy, you're lucky if the road is 11 feet wide.
With the exception of the Autostrada. That was an amazing road. It was like the Autobahn, but that's very rare. And if you haven't taken that road and you want to put it on your bucket list, it's an incredible road. It runs along the coast of the Mediterranean. I took it from, it's a long trip from Rome. So I took it from Genoa, and it was about 150 miles to Monaco. And what an amazing trip. So I put that really high on potential trips you could take.
Just, I think that's a great one to go on. And I think any driving trip you do in Italy is going to be exciting.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, rent a small car or a zip car or what have you. Because that's all you're going to get.
And get your elbows out if you're going to drive in like Rome. It isn't any worse than, for instance, driving at LAX or JFK. It isn't any worse than that. But you just got to get your elbows out if you're going to go through the city.
Yeah. And you cannot be tentative. There's nothing. Stopping is your worst enemy.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to get cut off by 6 old ladies.
They're all flipping you there.
Yeah. But, let's talk a little bit more about the Alfa Romeo Giulia. So we went on Car Gurus this morning just to see what the prices were like. As you mentioned, Chris, they're holding their value. It's probably because of the Ferrari engine, but we saw one for a 2018 with 56,000 miles, which is a little high on the mileage. You could probably do better than that for 40 grand.
But here's a high mileage car that new is about 85-ish, 80 to 85.
Yep.
And here's a high mileage car that's still just a few short years later is still 40 plus K.
Yeah, no,
you
it's
know?
true.
So it's holding
If it was me, I would look for 2018, 2019 with a little lower miles, and then see if you can get a certified one where they cover the insurance. You know, that way if something goes wrong with it, you know, and that's probably important for an Alfa Romeo.
Well, and you bring up something, and this is going to lead me right into your favorite Alfa Romeo.
Right.
You look at the 4C.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's the price point on the 4C is much better. It's actually surprisingly, it's a much smaller car, 4-cylinder engine, a little easier to work on because there's some shared technology there. So it's with some other brands.
Right.
So it's a great car. I mean, you know, to transition from the Giulia,
which is a 4-door car.
4-door car. You know, it's go up against your 3 Series or your C class or what have you, and do it very, very well.
Yeah.
You know, but the 4C, you know, drop right into that small, darty, you know,
go-kart type
purposeless
handling.
other than driving pleasure.
Yeah.
You know, its sole purpose is driving pleasure, but wow.
And people ask what our favorite cars are. That is actually one of my, and also Jeremy Clarkson. That's one of his absolute favorite cars, even though he's about 6'4.5".
Right.
He's got to stick his head out. He's got to drive the Spider. It comes in a coupe and a Spider. The coupes always seem to hold their value a little more for some reason, maybe because they're stiffer chassis. But it's pretty
usually
funny.
Comes down to water leaks.
Pretty funny to see him driving an Alfa Romeo tiny car.
Yeah.
And he's got to stick his head out.
himself right in there.
But as you mentioned, it's a 1.7 liter motor. It only has 237 horsepower, but the car's got a carbon fiber chassis.
It weighs under 2,000 pounds.
And they didn't make many of them. They only made 9,300 worldwide. They've hovered around $50,000 for basically since they were sold new.
Right.
So, you know, if you're looking for a good potential future investor, I mean, that is it. It hasn't gone down. It's simple to work on. I won't say simple because it's an Italian.
It's simple for an Italian brand.
It's simple for an Italian brand. If you can tolerate, you know, window switches not working here and there. But, you know, for 50 grand, it's very low production numbers. They're never going to build anything in the world that looks like that. We'll put a picture up of it, along with a picture of you driving the car at the Giulia.
Pebble Beach,
But yeah, no, I'm really, really high on the Alfa Romeo 4C. It's a fun car. It has to be a second car. It has a tiny trunk.
Yeah,
and two
but
seats.
I mean, it's high praise because I mean, Jeremy Clarkson calls it his favorite car, and that's high praise. One of his favorite cars because there's a lot of competition in that category. I mean, you got the Lotus Elise and Exage, you got the Toyota MR2, and a number of other cars that kind of fall.
The Supra, Toyota Supra,
Toyota Supra. The Z4. I mean, a lot of cars that kind of fall into that category.
The Boxster.
And this is really a lot of fun car, and that's saying a lot because I mean I really like the Porsche Boxster.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean that's a story for another day. But one of our favorite cars is the Porsche Spider Boxster.
Yeah, but really the Alfa Romeo C4 4C. I mean, we drove it through the Valley of Fire in Las Vegas. Great road, great car to drive, just loads of fun.
Yeah.
You know, but then there's also, you can always go classic. I mean, the Giulia badging has been around since the 50s. I mean, my mom's first car, I was raised in an Alfa Romeo GT 2000 Giulia,
such a great car.
And it's just a monster of big car. I mean, it's the 2000, not the 1600. You can still see 1600s out there.
Right.
And they're selling for like $250,000. I was so bummed when my brother sold the car out from underneath me. Because it was supposed to, anyways, that's another story. I'm going to tell that story. It's supposed to be my car. And he decided, it was a bad investment for me. So he sold it. And about a year ago, I sent him a flyer for this car that sold in Huntington Beach, $250,000 for that same car.
That's what happens when you have a financial advisor as older brother. A couple other quick cars we're going to mention are the Alfa Romeo Spiders. I think in the 80s, everyone remembers that car. It's two seats, convertible top. Those are, you know, I just went on Hemmings this morning and we did together, and we saw those for the car was made from 66 to 94, but we saw the Series 3, which was the 80s one, and those are only going for about 15 to 18 in pretty good condition. Well, that's not a bad car for that price.
It's a great car, and there's two primary physical differences between the two, and and I think it's pre-77. I have to double check this, but they had more of a boat tail, like the one that was made famous in the movie The Graduate, with Dustin Hoffman.
Was the earlier one?
The earlier version had the boat tail, the kind of the. And in the 80s or 77, I think is when the Veloce version of it, where they entered into like a box tail with a little winglet.
Those are 15. And then the last version of that car they made was called the Series 4. That was 1990 to 1994. We looked on Hemmings this morning. We saw those. Keep in mind the last year or two of a production run are usually always the most valuable. I mean, the first ones and the last ones. So those were 15 to 30,000, and those are 90 to 94 cars. It's a little different looking car. It had like the side skirts and stuff, but it basically is the same thing. And I mean, that's probably not. They probably worked the bugs out by then.
They did. I mean, it's been around for a while, and even the Italians will eventually get to it. I mean, we're hoping that Ferrari and Formula One will eventually get to it.
Yeah.
Not to segue too roughly onto.
Yeah, we're gonna come back, and that is a good segue. We're gonna talk a little bit of F1. We're gonna talk about our new Formula One podcast that's going to be coming out this year, and we're gonna talk about the Dakar Rally, which is going on right now. So this is the Speed Traveler Roadshow. We will be right back.
Welcome back to the Speed Traveler Roadshow. I'm Chris, and that's Charlie, and you're listening to us live on KHTS FM 98.1 AM 1220, and of course available wherever you download your favorite podcast episodes. Check us out on the social medias at The Speed Traveler. And Charlie, we're going to dive right into F1 news, and I kind of want to start this off. Usually this time of year, there's like tons of news about F1 going on, but the thing is, there's no news. There's no F1 news. Well, wait a second. It's a new day. I think we have two very good topics of F1 news to talk about.
We do. I think the first and foremost is the Speed Traveler is going to launch a Formula One show in 2024. We're really excited about that because a lot of people want the deep dive in Formula One, but it's tough because when you're on the radio, you're broadcasting to a more general audience. And you don't, some people don't want to hear all about Formula One. They want to hear about what cars are going up in value, and that's what the Roadshow is all about. So we're going to launch a podcast specific to Formula One. We're going to review the race before. We're going to preview the race that's coming up, and we're going to talk big headlines in Formula One.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to go total deep dive into. Well, we probably will because we can't help ourselves, But we're going to kind of find those peripheral stories that make sense to discuss, a little bit about what happened, about the race that's coming up, things to consider, things to look at. Yeah. Our picks, if you will be the house on that one.
Right.
And also, what I love about what we're going to do with the podcast is we're going to make a strong effort to do this in mostly live locations. So we're going to do it on like a Wednesday.
Right.
And we'll have our live broadcast from wherever location we're at. We're hoping,
or maybe a Saturday if we're out at a car show.
Well, we'll do some random Saturday live ones as well. But that way we can have it uploaded and people can download it wherever they listen to their podcasts as well.
That's a good point. You said there's no news, but we actually did get some breaking news as we were just about to go online.
It's actual news. It's not, F1 driver lineup change. No, there are no changes in the driver lineup.
Do you want to?
No, please. Okay. Go right ahead.
So Gunter Steiner, I love the way you described him this morning. You said he's the grumpiest happy guy you know. Or no, the happiest grumpy guy you know. So he was the team principal for the Haas F1 team.
Since its inception.
Yeah, and I guess that, Gene Haas, who's local here in Camarillo, California, I guess they just felt that they underperformed last year.
Yeah, and they had a difference of opinions, according to other outlets, a difference of opinions of where the team should go in the 2024 season. They went from being 9th in the championship in 2022 to last in the championship in 2023.
And they showed flashes of greatness. Like they did well in qualifying.
Well, how can you not be a Nico Hulkenberg fan?
Hulkenberg. Yeah, the guy that was out of F1 that got called back into F1 for his technical knowledge, and he was just absolutely destroying it.
And was fast
in qualifying.
Well, what? He qualified P4 and P6.
Yeah, P7. He was P7. in the top 10 many times, but during the race, the car just
always
had
faded.
no pace at all.
Which is funny, and not funny because it parallels Ferrari. Ferrari show great pace,
Right.
in qualifying, but they would fade in the race. And, obviously Ferrari's running a Ferrari engine. Well, Haas is a Ferrari customer engine.
Right.
So their failure to produce good race results is in parallel with the same issues that Ferrari had at the home camp.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. We'll bring you that news for sure on the Speed Traveler Roadshow. And we'll dive deeper into that when we get on the Speed Traveler.
Honestly,
Formula
I don't
1.
care what Haas does. I want to know what Gunter does. Where does Gunter go next? Maybe
host of a TV show, hopefully.
Maybe he would be a great. Well, I have another team manager
NBC.
role in mind for him if he wants to come and manage the Speed Traveler racing
that's a good
team.
idea.
I would love to have Gunter in my
And
radio
we could
here.
bundle that with the NBC Family Hour hosted by Gunter.
We're gonna need a large swear jar for that one.
But you know what? Well, let's move on from that a little bit. The Dakar Rally is going on right now. It started in the 70s, and it was a race that went from Paris to Dakar, Senegal, across the Sahara Desert and all those things. It ended up becoming too dangerous to do it there. So then they moved it to South America.
Yep.
And they did that for about 12 years, and then it became too dangerous in South America.
The South Americans said it's too dangerous.
Yeah.
Huh.
So now it's in Saudi Arabia. And so, they went to the Middle East. But, there's some cool stuff going on there. I'm just going to quickly go down, some of the Americans of note. Seth Quintero of San Marcos, California, he moved up to the Red Bull car. He was doing well. And unfortunately, he had a big mechanical problem. So sadly, he is out now. He's out of the Dakar. But Ricky Brayback from San Bernardino, California, who won the event in 2020 and came in second in 2021, he's in third place overall now. It's really cool. If you haven't seen it, you can go to YouTube, go to NBC Sports, and you can get daily updates every day. And it's just really interesting because it's 14-day long race.
And you brought up a good point of just checking out the highlights on YouTube or wherever, NBC Sports or wherever you can get them, because the footage is dramatic.
It is.
The terrain is stunning. It makes me want to go visit. I feel like I would die in about 30 minutes.
Yeah. And it's called
maybe 29.
The desert out there, and Saudi Arabia is called the empty quarter.
The empty quarter. It's crazy, but the footage is phenomenal. It's just so cool. And these drivers are just at 10 tenths the whole time.
Yeah.
Seth Quintero, he jumped into the Red Bull Toyota.
Yep.
He came from the side-by-sides.
Yeah.
And which is crazy because it's basically a mildly modified side-by-side that you can buy out of the showroom floor today.
It's like the Can-Am. Well, I think Can-Am was the brand he was in. You can buy it. And there's a guy named AJ Austin Jones, American from I actually think he's from Phoenix, but he's doing quite well. He won overall he won his class in 2023, and he's in about fourth place now. So you've got people to tune in and root for, and it makes it more interesting, I think. Also of note is Sarah Rice. You were talking about Stadium Super Trucks with Robbie Gordon.
Yes.
She raced a Stadium Super Truck for a while. She's in her first ever Dakar in the side-by-side series. I think they call it the Challenger class now, but it was T4 last year. And she's been running in the top 3 and top 5. She's 5th right now overall in her division.
That's just incredible.
Yeah, how cool.
It's interesting that she went from the Super Truck, Stadium Super Trucks, which is all out blitzkrieg for 30 minutes.
Right.
You have to change your mindset because endurance racing, you have to change that switch. You have to still run 10 tenths.
Right.
But you got to do it with a monicum of care, especially at Dakar. You have no idea
what's coming
to a degree what's coming up around the next corner. There is wildlife out there, and it's not in a cage.
No. So do yourself a favor. This is another Speed Traveler tip. If you haven't seen the Dakar Rally, go check it out on YouTube, and you will really enjoy it. If you're a car person, you're going to love it.
Yeah, you'll have loads of fun. And by the way, I mean, just going off-roading, you can do that in a lot of states around the country where there's this open space.
Yeah.
I mean, we're here in California, and there's just a little bit east of us. There's some great terrain out there in the Mojave Desert.
Yeah.
Yuma, Arizona, north to look. The Mint 400 has now been revitalized in Las Vegas, Barstow to Las Vegas.
Yeah, and we might be in the race this year. If we're not in the race, we're gonna broadcast live from the race because the Mint 400, if you've never been, it starts on the Wednesday before the race, and there's a big party in downtown at the Fremont Experience, and then there's a parade that goes down the strip. They actually close the strip down for the parade, and then
That's
the
a
race
cool parade.
starts on Friday and Saturday. So really a fun race that we just recently saw. Was it James Garner, aka Jim Rockford? His car that he raced in the Mint 400 is at the Peterson Auto Museum right now.
Just saw that. Yeah. That's
that was
so
cool.
cool. I'm looking forward to being down at the Peterson Automotive Museum here pretty quickly. So Charlie, I guess the cookies might be done.
The cookies are done.
I really want to emphasize we're going to be doing an F1 exclusively F1 podcast. Mostly, I'd be 99% F1. There might be some other auto racing news that pops in there.
Right.
But we're going to be doing this at some viewing parties and things like that. We have a couple of viewing parties planned for races that maybe we can't travel to, but are on our bucket list.
Right.
If you're doing out there an F1 viewing party and would like to have us host our show at your viewing party,
Let us know.
It's kind of a wild hair. I just thought of that. We would love to do it. I mean, I love watching F1 with like-minded friends
For sure.
and acquaintances, and just heckle those that are cheering for a team that I may not be cheering for, and being heckled by those that are, that are not cheering for the team I'm cheering for, what have you. Make a good time of it. We'll bring some Speed Traveler shirts for everybody. Charlie, do we have anything else to talk about?
I think that's it until next week.
That's it from the Speed Traveler Road Show. Thanks for listening. That's Charlie Frank. I'm Chris Evertson. We look forward to seeing you next week.